This adopted kid built a $2 trillion empire from the passenger seat of a beat-up Chevy Blazer. He typed out a business plan during a cross-country drive in 1994. And 30 years later, his company makes $1.2 million every single minute. Not from viral products or flashy ads, but from a strategy that crushed entire industries and took over the cloud, the marketplace, even your living room. And just as the regulators came knocking, he vanished. Albuquerque, 1964. In a modest hospital room, a baby was born who would one day make it possible for you to order 600 glow-in-the-dark garden gnomes at 3 a.m. with a single click. His name wasn't Bezos yet. That would come later. His teenage mom, Jackie, was working as a secretary. His biological dad, a circus performer who vanished before little Jeff could even say, "Dada." But life has a funny way of working out. A few years later, a Cuban immigrant named Miguel Mike Bezos married Jackie, adopted Jeff, and gave him both a new last name and what would become the origin story of an empire. Even as a kid, Jeff was different. He was the type who'd ace every test, then stare at the stars a little too long while mumbling about colonizing the moon. At his high school graduation, he gave a speech declaring his dream to build space hotels and amusement parks in orbit. Everyone clapped politely, then probably went home wondering whether to be inspired or slightly concerned. Jeff, meanwhile, went to Princeton. There, he double majored in electrical engineering and computer science, because apparently, why choose just one way to take over the world? He graduated valedictorian, but he wasn't your typical popular genius. His brain ran on pure logic, copious amounts of caffeine, and what could only be described as an uncomfortable level of ambition. Still, he was charming in his own intense way, like if the Terminator could crack dad jokes. After college, Jeff did what any overachieving, overqualified tech geek would do in the early 90s. He bounced around safe, well-paying jobs, bankers' trust, a failed telecom startup, the usual suspects. But then came D.E. Shaw, a mysterious Wall Street hedge fund with a reputation for hiring brilliantly weird people. Bezos joined and shot up to senior VP by age 30, working directly under David Shaw, a man who basically played 4D chess with financial markets for a living. It was at D.E. Shaw that Jeff met Mackenzie Tuttle. Smart, sharp, and apparently willing to marry a guy who thought spreadsheets were genuinely romantic. They got engaged just 3 months after their first date. Everything changed with one number. Bezos came across a report that stopped him dead in his tracks. The internet was growing at 2,300% per year. This wasn't just some trendy tech bubble. This was a gravitational force, and Jeff had just discovered escape velocity. So he did what any good analyst would do. He made a spreadsheet. 20 different internet business ideas. Online CDs, online clothing, online dog food. But one kept jumping out at him. Books. Why books? Simple. Millions of titles. Compact storage, already standardized. Books were, as Jeff would later put it, the perfect gateway drug to e-commerce. Here's the thing, though. Jeff was a senior VP at a prestigious Wall Street firm. He had money, prestige, respect, nice suits. So when he walked into his boss's office and said, "Hey, I'm quitting to sell books on the internet," his boss replied, "That sounds like a great idea for someone who doesn't already have a good job." Jeff did the only logical thing. He packed up his entire life, convinced Mackenzie to quit her job too, and started driving from New York to Seattle in their beat-up Chevy Blazer. And here's the beautiful part. While Mackenzie drove, Jeff sat in the passenger seat, typing up the Amazon business plan on his laptop. Somewhere along Interstate 80, between endless cornfields and truck stops, the world's largest online retailer was being written in bullet points at 65 miles per hour. But it almost wasn't called Amazon. Jeff's first choice was Cadabra, as in abracadabra, until his lawyer misheard it as cadaver. Not exactly ideal branding for selling cookbooks. Then he considered Relentless, which he liked so much he actually bought the domain. Fun fact, if you type relentless.com today, it still redirects to Amazon. Seriously, try it. But finally, he settled on Amazon. Why? It started with A, so it would show up early in alphabetized lists. Plus, according to Bezos, it was the biggest river in the world, which was perfect, because Jeff didn't want to build a bookstore. He wanted to build the everything store. Back then, there was no AWS, no Alexa, no Prime. Just a man in a garage with a dream, a fax machine, and what friends described as a laugh like a hyena inhaling nitrous oxide. But here's what nobody, not even Jeff, fully realized at the time. This wasn't just another startup. This was the beginning of a 30-year siege on retail, logistics, and cloud computing. He was just a guy with a laptop and a business plan. But soon, he'd become something much more dangerous. A founder with no fear, no limits, and a methodical plan to reshape the entire economy. The world had no idea what was about to hit it. Summer, 1994. Bezos officially founded Amazon with $10,000 in seed money from his parents. Money they later admitted came from their retirement fund. His office setup was legendary. A desk made from a door bolted to 2x4s. Plain, functional, and a perfect symbol of the company's obsession with frugality. Every dollar saved was a dollar that could be pumped back into growth. In July 1995, the website went live. The next day, someone ordered Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogies, a dense technical book about artificial intelligence. Not exactly a bestseller, but it was a start. Then came more orders, and more. In those early days, Bezos would ring a bell in the office for every single sale. Until they were getting so many orders, they had to stop because the bell never stopped ringing. Within weeks, customers from all 50 states and over 40 countries were clicking buy. Jeff had tapped into something deeper than just online shopping. He was selling access, efficiency, and most importantly, time. His philosophy was brutally simple: get big fast. And he meant it. There was no time for polish, just pure urgency. Code was written by people running on no sleep. Orders were packed by employees, still learning the software as they went. Mistakes happened constantly. At one point, a textbook was accidentally listed for $23 million. But perfection wasn't the goal. Speed was everything. In 1997, Amazon went public. The company still wasn't profitable, and Wall Street analysts weren't convinced it ever would be. One famously called it Amazon.toast. But Bezos had a different message for investors. Think long-term growth, not short-term profit. The investors who believed him would eventually be rewarded beyond their wildest dreams. Around this time, Bezos launched something that would define Amazon forever: customer reviews. To most retailers, letting buyers trash-talk products directly on your own website seemed insane. But Bezos believed transparency would build trust. And he was right. Customers didn't just come to buy, they came to browse, research, and compare. That engagement created something more valuable than sales: loyalty. From there, Amazon expanded relentlessly. Books, to CDs, to DVDs, to toys, to electronics. By the end of the 90s, it wasn't just a bookstore anymore. It was becoming a digital everything store. Revenue was exploding, traffic was surging, Wall Street was falling in love. Amazon had become the poster child of the new economy. But Bezos wasn't just focused on what they were selling. He was obsessing over the infrastructure that made it all possible. In 2000, he made a move that seemed counterintuitive. He launched Amazon Marketplace, inviting third-party sellers to compete directly on Amazon's platform. Most people thought he was crazy. Why invite competition? But Jeff saw the bigger picture. Marketplace let Amazon grow its catalog without holding inventory. More importantly, it gave the company an incredible source of data about what customers actually wanted. That same year, Amazon started acquiring companies strategically. Alexa Internet for web analytics, Audible for audiobooks. Eventually, Zappos for shoes and their legendary company culture. Later, Kiva Systems for warehouse robots, because humans are slow and, unfortunately, require healthcare and backing breaks. Amazon wasn't just selling things anymore. It was designing every single step of how things got sold, shipped, and reviewed. But just when Amazon seemed unstoppable, disaster struck. March 2000. The dot-com bubble burst. Tech stocks imploded overnight. The wild optimism of the 90s curdled into pure fear. And Amazon, still burning money and showing no profit, suddenly found itself on Wall Street's hit list. The stock crashed from over $100 to just $6. Headlines screamed, Amazon.bomb. Analysts predicted bankruptcy within months. The company that once rang bells for every sale was now setting off alarm bells across the entire industry. Inside Amazon, the mood was dark. Layoffs came in waves. Perks disappeared. Side projects got axed. The grand vision of the everything store suddenly looked like an expensive fantasy built on nothing but hype and venture capital fumes. For Bezos, the crash